Rocket launch. My first ever visit to see a rocket launch. NASA invited 50 social media activists to see a rocket launch from the Wallops flight facility in Virginia. I'm heading this morning to see Antares rocket launching Cygnus spacecraft, which is carrying cargo to the International Space Station. So it's a two-day event, and today is a Tuesday. Tomorrow, Wednesday evening, 4:46 is the rocket launch. NASA will give the same access to me what media gets. I will be joining the events as the rocket science unfolds in the NASA facility. So follow me covering and experiencing for the first time the rocket launch. Arrived at NASA's Wallops flight facility. Right now time is around 8 o'clock. I'm going to get in and check in.
I'm Arsenio. I'm a two-time NASA Social alumni, and I currently work out of NASA Goddard as an instrumentation researcher on the AeroNet project. Prior to that, I worked on the Mini LHR, Mini Laser Heterodyne Radiometry project, and we are launching hopefully later this year, assuming that Virgin Galactic stays on schedule. And I look forward to seeing you guys all around and enjoying the event.
So let's start with go around the room if you're comfortable, just to get to know who you'll be hanging out with for the next 2 days. Let's do name, whether or not it's your first NASA social, and then your favorite thing in space. This could be body, NASA missions, past or present, planet, anything. So I'll go first. I'm Chelsea. I'm the social media lead at NASA Wallops. I do their video, live show, some social media, stuff like that. This is my second NASA social. My favorite thing in space is the asteroid binning. Kick it up.
Sure is. It's my first NASA social. I do some social media stuff, and I do videos on YouTube, and I cover tech for a couple blogs. My favorite thing in space is probably the NASA space station, because it's like people's living space year round is kind of like just still amazing.
I'm Andy Rexford. This is my first NASA social. I do social media. I work in social media mostly for college students. My favorite thing in space is probably Mars.
What's up, everybody? My name is Brendan Buchschwager. I cover things on Snapchat, Twitter, YouTube a little bit as well. Very passionate about space. I've done a couple of NASA socials so far, mostly down in Florida though. So this is my first time here at the NASA Wallops facility. Very excited about that. If I seem a little tired or groggy throughout the day at all, it's because I did just drive through the night here from Michigan. And then my favorite thing in space is the New Horizons craft. I think that was pretty remarkable with just how far it's gone.
Hey y'all, my name is Amanda Beatty. This is my first NASA social. My husband and I run a veteran service organization here at the Marine Corps Base Quantico in Virginia. And I'm in the media business as well, but my favorite thing in space is Jupiter.
Hey guys, Peter Kitch. I'm on Instagram and all the other handles, same name, Peter Kitch, Kitch like Kitchen. I've done 2 other NASA socials. I got really excited after going to the DM-1 launch for the SpaceX collaboration with NASA, and so I think that's probably the most exciting thing, like just commercial stuff in space right now is the most exciting thing for me.
Jason Bessner. I'm a science teacher. This is my first NASA social. And I guess my favorite thing in space is that new black hole that just
I'm Charlie Alejandro. This is my first social. I do have a small production company, and I've always been a NASA geek, and my favorite thing in space is that Pluto finally got its props again.
I go by Backyard Astronomy Guy online, and I'm a volunteer solar system ambassador for JPL, so I do a lot of outreach. My favorite thing about space is getting my telescope in my backyard, as I may guess, and checking out the planets and the moon. And I'm making more content for my space station presentation that I do for kids and adults.
Hey guys, Justin Martney. This is my third NASA social. I'm an outdoor photographer and filmmaker, and I think my favorite thing in space is a solar eclipse from the opposite side of Saturn, because the way the rings glow is just phenomenal.
I'm Rick Brown. I'm a photographer from Maine, and my favorite thing about
space is probably the Milky Way, Galactic Center. Do a lot of photos of that. Also, the moon, full moon photography is great, and this is my first social.
Hi all, I'm Matt Howie. I'm outside Portland, Oregon. I'm a writer. This is my first social, and I think I like Mars.
I'm Sarah Loft, and I work at headquarters for NASA and in communications, so I work on the website and social media. And so I'll be here supporting social, writing tweets, and this is actually only the second launch I've ever been to, so I'm really excited. I also did get to see a spacecraft land on Mars last year, so that was my favorite things ever.
I'm John Huntington. I'm a college professor in Brooklyn. I'm actually on sabbatical this semester, it's very exciting. I teach sound systems and video for live shows and control systems, stuff like that. Also a photographer and a storm chaser. And this is my third social. I've been to saw SpaceX launch, and I was here in the fall, I think. And I actually grew up about 100 miles north from here, up on the Eastern Shore of Maryland. So this place has always been, I came here when I was like 11 years old. First time, so but I always find these things really inspiring, and the people are always amazing, so it's very exciting to be back.
Ben, I'm actually a spacecraft engineer back in the UK. You can find me on Twitter mostly on the plane trench, and my favourite thing is like probably the martyr.
My name's Randy. I am on a radio show in this market, the Whiskey Randy Show. And what the heck, I'll be that guy. Uranus is my favorite.
My name is Casey. This is my first social. Favorite thing in space is probably Mars rovers, so an opportunity was finally completed or whatever, my heart got broken too.
Hey everyone, I'm Erin McGrady. I'm a Google Team Pixel ambassador, a freelance writer and photographer. Favorite thing in space? Oh, it's my first time. My favorite thing in space is probably the unknown, just what's undiscovered.
My name is Vanessa Lloyd. I do communications for the Satellite Servicing Projects Division at NASA Goddard. I've never actually been through a full NASA social, so this is kind of my first one. And I guess my favorite thing in space is actually Earth, because it's our home.
I'm Katie. I do outreach for the Satellite Servicing Projects Division at Goddard. I started recently, so this is my first social and my first launch. I would say my favorite thing in space, and I've been cheating, but as a person, it's astronaut Emma McLean. And I've been following her since I started here, and she's amazing.
I'm Peter Jacobs. I'm the Public Affairs Officer for the Satellite Servicing Projects Division and Exploration and Space Communication Projects Division at Goddard. I was going to say Earth. Don't really have... Oh, I've been on a couple NASA socials. This is my second one at Walls. Probably my last one, if Chelsea's looks at me or any indication. And favorite thing currently, probably maybe the Kuiper Belt, because I like to expand, so I'm in Belgium.
I go by Gap5. I do community and social media for a mobile gaming publisher who is currently working on Terra-Genesis. It's a mobile game about terraforming different planets all throughout our solar system, hypothetical solar systems, the TRAPPIST system, and so on. You develop your own civilizations, and if you play on hard mode, even species from little microbes all the way up to, in the a new expansion that's coming out in a month, dinosaurs. So it's going to be really cool. You can follow us at Terra-Genesis game if you're interested in more. We post awesome science content all throughout the week. We steal a ton of photos from NASA and write really, really long social posts about them, and they're awesome. And this is my first NASA social. So yeah, if you guys want to catch or not, stick around. Let me know.
This is my second NASA social, and I was here for the last launch, but I didn't get to see the launch because it was postponed, so I'm back again. My favorite thing in space is probably the Voyager 1 and 2, and then the ISS, of course, and all the the biomedical research and stuff. And
I'm an amateur photographer, and I've loved space things since July 20th, 1969, when I watched it on a little TV.
I remember that.
So you can all ride with me. Yeah, so it's my first NASA social. I'm glad to be here. And I guess my favorite thing in space is just watching spacewalks, because I have kind of a fear of heights, and I'm thinking, oh my God, hanging out there in mid-space, it's just got to be terrifying.
I'm Justine Walker, aka the Dancing Physicist. This is not just my first NASA social, but the first launch that I will see in person, which I'm very excited because I've watched too many to count live streams and videos. My favorite thing in space was the Skylab, because Allie Bean, who was an astronaut on that, was a trained gymnast, and because it was the biggest space that has ever been allotted to astronauts in space, He was able to kind of do really interesting experiments with different types of movements that he had learned and what people had said would never be possible, he was able to do on the Skylab.
I am the communications person for the Delaware Museum of Natural History, so I'm representing them today. This is my first NASA social. My current favorite thing in space would be Mars, because I love that I can see it from here, from Earth. But previously, I got to, the first time the Challenger went up, I was in Florida on Easter break, and we pulled over to the side of the road and got to see it go up, and that was just with thousands of other people, and that was just an amazing experience.
Hi, I'm Rachel Hartugs, co-owner of Rocket Frog Brewing Company in Sterling, Virginia. We're named after the frog from September 6, 2013. So I figured I might as well come out and do my first NASA social when I saw the opportunity. My favorite thing about space is being able to get there.
I'm Taylor Paul. I'm with Virginia's for Lovers, my first NASA social. My favorite thing about space is probably all the cool pictures of Earth that we get to see down here from up there.
I'm Jeff Edmondson, I'm a meteorologist at Wavy TV down in Norfolk, Virginia. This is my second NASA social. I've seen a couple launches, one here. I came up here the day before the launch that had the failure. I didn't come the next day because I didn't feel like making the 2-hour drive. So this time, I know it won't be a failure, but I'm very excited to see another launch here at Wallops Island. Favorite thing in space, probably my favorite moment was the solar eclipse from past summer. That was super exciting, but I'm confident that the launch pad tour today is going to be right up there. I'm really excited to see that. And I don't know if they're going to let any of us push the button to hit launch. I'm just making that request right now. So.
Hello, I'm Raja Bandy. This is my first social. I have a YouTube channel called Beautiful World Through My Eyes. I'm just a hobby. Whenever I travel, I make vlogs. My favorite thing will be International Space Station.
I'm on Instagram, and this is my first social. My favorite thing in space is definitely the space station, Mars, and I love using my telescope.
I have supported maybe a half a dozen or so socials, a few of the ones that have been done here at Wallops and a few of the ones that have been done back at Goddard and Greenbelt. In terms of launches, the only ones I've attended have been the ones here at Wallops. I've attended, I think, very nearly all of the Antares launches. However, I think I've only seen one in person because the web guy usually is looking at a computer screen when the rocket goes up. So I'm excited at the prospect of seeing what they look like in person, especially in daylight, since a lot of them lately have been night launches. Favorite thing in space, a lot of the good answers have already been taken. So coming up with something different. I'll say what I really like about space is the possibilities, which is sort of stealing a bit of an answer that one of you gave about what we don't know yet. But when I was a kid, and when most of us were kids, there were 9 planets, Earth and Pluto both included back then. We know now that there are several thousand planets orbiting stars outside our own solar system, and just what that all means for everything is very exciting to me. So thank you again all for coming, and I guess Chelsea's going to tell us what we're up to next.
Be on the bus. I think maybe we'll do a little overview of Wallops, what you're going to see today. So a little bit of a history of Wallops. So it used to be a military base. So if you hear us refer to the main base, that's what it used to be. George H.W. Bush, the former president, he used to fly out of here before he went to war. And so, don't do that much anymore, but there are a lot of Navy operations. So if you see those little planes flying super low, they're just trying to land on an aircraft carrier mock that's on the ground. They're super cool to see flying around. We also share Wallops Island with the Navy. So you'll see it as we're on the huge bridge over to the launch pad and everything like that. You'll see something that looks like a freaky ship, but it's in the sand, and that's called the ship in the sand. And that's where they practice like surface combat, stuff like that, kind of operations. But we won't see that too much today, but that's something that you may encounter. So back on the NASA side, it's not just rockets, but we can go into that first. So NASA owns like the physical land of Wallops Island, and then the Mid-Atlantic Regional Spaceport, which it's put it together, it's Mars, They're also like the Virginia Commercial Spaceflight Authority. They have a lot of names, but it's all the launch pad people. They own that, and then Northrop Grumman has their rocket that we put on top of it. So it's all very much, you'll see a lot of different people from a lot of different places, and we all work together on that. In addition to orbital rockets, our bread and butter is really the sounding rockets program that Northrop Grumman also leads. So today, if our speaker is so kind, you may get to see the, so it's the rocket that launched the Mars 2020 rover parachute. So it goes really high up there and then deploys. Because we figure if you deploy a parachute 30 miles up in Earth's atmosphere, it's comparable to how it would be 6 miles to the Mars atmosphere. Kind of balances out that way. So all of our rockets go up, and then they splash back down in the ocean, and we recover them. So that's why you might get to see something that's been to space, because we do bring them back. Kind of saltwatery, but it'll be there. They do a lot of heliophysics missions, looking at the sun. It's great because you need to be up there for 15 minutes if you want to test, just to prove that your instrument is right. Putting it up on a sounding rocket is a cheap way. And then later it might be integrated onto like a big old satellite. You know, you don't want to test it for the first time when it's, so those are really fun to watch. Of course, they're not as big as the Antares ones, but you get to be a lot closer, and they go really fast. If you ever want to come to a sounding rocket launch, let me know. Aircraft, we're going to be stopping by there today, but unfortunately a lot of our aircraft are off doing science missions. So our P-3 Orion aircraft, it's a converted Navy plane. That's one of the ways that NASA handles sort of their budget, is the Navy says, this is a good plane, but we're going to get some other planes, so do you want this one? So the P-3 is a Navy plane, and rather than it has a bomb bay, so instead of dropping bombs, we're like, what? There's a slot you could put stuff in and it hangs perfectly underneath an aircraft? So that's what we're doing for Operation Ice Bridge. So there's a satellite IceSat, the first IceSat, and then it didn't work. After a while, as satellites do, it went through its life. And then we just launched IceSat-2, it's a mission out of Goddard. And so that's going up. So in order to bridge the time, called Ice Bridge. And so the airplane flew on the path that the satellite would have, collecting that valuable data on sea ice. So it like flies like 1,500 feet off the ground. Like, it's not much higher than like the Space Needle in Seattle. Just going over, and that's super cool. But unfortunately, you won't get to see that today. Our aircraft do a lot of other missions that you'll get to hear about, like how storms move carbon, and that was the African-American mission. And those are good like aircraft missions, you know, to help study Earth weather. You'll see the Near Earth Network. I think most notably, it recently tracks all of NASA's missions, basically. And so it sees it, and then it collaborates with Bermuda. This is where our other ground station is. It's the big dishes that you'll see. So one thing I like to point out, the dishes that you see on the way to the visitor center, the big ones that you saw to the left if you're on your way here, those are NOAA's satellites. So they are helping bring you the weather app on your phone. Ours are more on Wallops Island and then the Wallops main base, and we'll see those as well. They're just not as visible. So you can see as you introduced yourselves, we're not all super space-minded. So I want you to keep that in mind, that our speakers were reminded to try to do a good job and not be too technical, but there's no stupid questions. Ask them anything you want. And then this social is also for you. So if you're like, I kind of want to take a selfie with that rocket part, but I'm too scared to ask, don't be. Like they're there, they know that you want to take pictures of things, they'll stop. So don't feel like you're going to put this behind. Like, this event is for you. Anything that you need for your digital content, that's what we're here for.
Hello, just completed the group check-ins and introductions, and now we are heading to the bus to go to the tour of the facilities.
So I'm Debbie Parks. I'm the principal engineer for the software engineering group here at Wallops, and welcome to Wallops. This is the entrance to the Range Control Center. My little bit of bad news is we can't take pictures once we get upstairs. We have hit right at a time when they're starting some testing with the vehicle. It's the first test that we're doing with the vehicle on the pad, and some of the screens are proprietary, so we can't do pictures once we get up there. Okay, so we'll head on up. We're going to climb 3 flights of steps, and we'll be in the observation deck. And you can just kind of gather around the glass and look in, and I'll explain to you what the rooms are all about. Okay?
The flight control center is really cool, but we cannot take pictures, so it's really rocket science. Heading back to the bus for our next location. We arrived at the Sounding Rockets facility here, and we are going to go in and see what's in there.